Donald Trump, of course, is hogging up all of the oxygen that the media has. Every headline, every story, every website, hell, most of the segments I've done, it's all about Donald Trump because of all the destruction he is causing to the United States. And I've mentioned, when talking in most of these segments, that a lot of these decisions are solely his. Like, they're not even necessarily Republican decisions. They're just Donald Trump decisions. But while we're hyper-focused on Donald Trump, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives is still doing everything possible to intentionally inflict as much pain as possible onto the American public. In just the last week, these Republicans have voted and passed on 2 separate bills that are going to destroy the lives of Americans. The first one, and this definitely not the biggest one, but for some people it probably is, they repealed a Biden-era rule that capped bank overdraft fees at $5. The Republican-controlled House, and of course the Republican-controlled Senate, let's make sure they get full credit too, voted for banks to charge you more money when you don't have money. They literally voted to screw you more. And the media is so hyper-focused on whatever Donald Trump puts on Truth Social at any given moment that they barely even talked about it. I don't think they did talk about it. Republicans voted to charge you more money because why not, right? Republican Representative French Hill from Arkansas, who's the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, said this about the legislation. Competition and innovation, not government-mandated price caps, remain the best way to ensure consumers have access to affordable financial products and services. Banks make $8 billion a year off of overdraft fees alone. And of course, the banks had sued the federal government for enacting the $5 cap. The $5 cap would have saved Americans $5 billion a year, or an average of $225 per household. And this asshole, French Hill, says innovation and competition will solve the problem. It literally didn't, you dumb fuck. Why do you think we needed the legislation to begin with? There was already competition. There was already innovation. And they used that competition and innovation to charge people $35, $40 if they went over, or if they overdrafted their bank account, basically. They did that already when there was competition and innovation, so the government had to step in and regulate it, which is the role of the government. Allow these corporations to do what they can do, but when they create a problem, and it goes on for literally decades, and they don't change it, they actually keep making it worse, then the government regulators step in and say, okay, enough is enough. We can't have this. And that's what happened. So don't sit there like we're the idiots and tell us that we need just more competition. That'll solve the problem. I'm super smart. No, you're absolutely not. You're a shill for the banking industry, and you should be ashamed of yourself for every moment for the rest of your miserable effing life. The average person that gets hit with these banking overdraft fees, more than 70% of them, their average bank account balance, $237. You voted to screw over low-income people. That is what the Republican Party brings to you. And as I mentioned, that's not even the worst thing that this House of Representatives did in the last week and a half. They also finally, they tried to do it last year, passed the SAVE Act to finally get rid of voter fraud, because by God, we all know that's a problem that totally exists. Voter fraud is already illegal. We did not need a new piece of legislation to reiterate the fact that something that is illegal is already illegal. We get it. It's illegal. Why don't you enforce it more? Oh, wait, you do? It's just so rare as to not even exist, basically. But here is what this legislation does. The SAVE Act requires people to present a birth certificate when registering to vote. If the name on that birth certificate does not match the individual's current name, they can't register to vote. Which means if you're a woman who was married and you took your husband's last name, or if you identify by a different name, if you are transgender and you have changed your name, even if you've changed your name legally, and you go in there with your driver's license and your birth certificate, those names don't match, you can't vote. What you have to do is you have to go track down whatever courthouse you changed your name at. And then you have to get that legal documentation, which, by the way, you have to pay for. And then you have to bring that with you. This affects 69 million American women and 4 million men who have names that do not match what is on, legal names that do not match what is on their birth certificate. And the reason this bugs me so damn much is because I'm one of those people. When I was about 1.5 years old, maybe not even that much, my mom got remarried. And so my last name was legally changed. So what is on my birth certificate does not say Farron Cousins. But that is my legal name. And that is obviously how I identify. I'm born and raised. I am proud of that last name. I wasn't born, but anyway, you get the point. A couple years ago, I had to go get my driver's license renewed. It had expired. So I went there, had my birth certificate, and they said, nope, can't do it. Names don't match. I then spent the next several months tracking down the courthouse in the state of Alabama where my name was changed. And then, as I said, I had to pay to get that legal documentation sent to me so I could update my driver's license. Then, by the time I got it updated, I also had to pay another fee because, of course, hey, you're 2 months expired, idiot. Well, not my fault. The point is, I legally had to do that because I can't not have a driver's license. You take somebody that maybe doesn't have the resources to track down where their name was changed, if it was, from a marriage or from an adoption or whatever it was, and you go through all that hassle to register to vote. There are millions of people that will say, you know what, screw it, that's not worth it. Tell me I'm wrong about that. Trust me, I went through it, and if you ever have to go through that process, maybe yours was better, maybe yours was worse. But there are millions of people that will say, that's not worth it. I guess I just won't vote. And that's the plan. That is the goal of this. It's not to root out voter fraud. It's not to find people who are here illegally. It's to stop people from voting because Republicans know that if fewer people vote, they prevail in elections. Statistically, that is what happens. When you have higher voter turnout, it doesn't bode well for Republicans. And that's what they're trying to prevent. So even with all of the news stories about Donald Trump, all the horrible things that he is doing on a daily basis, let's not forget that he is not the only one destroying this country. Because Republicans in the House and in the Senate, under Trump's cover, hogging up all the media spotlight, are doing just as much damage to your personal life. Welcome to the Ring of Fire YouTube channel. I am Farron Cousins, the host of Ring of Fire here on YouTube. I don't know if this is your first time here, or maybe you're somebody who comes here every single day, but either way, let me tell you what's going on. Ring of Fire was actually started in the year 2004 by none other than our own America's lawyer, Mike Papantonio. And over the last 20 plus years, Ring of Fire has gone from being a 1-hour weekend radio program on Air America through a series of changes. Go Left TV, which we started back in 2007. We've been on the Young Turks network. And of course, this very YouTube channel here that started, obviously, as they all do, with no subscribers. And we've now ballooned to well over 1 million as we go on our way to that 2 million mark. So again, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. Take a few minutes, look around. We have content that actually goes back 20 years. So there's lots to see, there's lots to do. And trust me, with the next 4 years of Donald Trump getting back in office, We will be here every day, every single day with fresh content for you to keep you informed about what's happening and, of course, to warn you of the potential dangers that Donald Trump poses as we approach his second term.